Dias is all about our partners. We call them our partners because that's what we believe we do. We partner with them in what they do. Dias's role is one of support and one of mentoring, one of catalysing the work that these gentlemen do. And so Peter and Haggai are our two Ugandan partners. We also have two partners in Kenya that we work with, and in the years previously we've had others as well. But we are so honoured to have these two gentlemen here. I spent a lot of time with them on the phone through the years, been over there so many times. So I feel like they're my brothers, and I know them very well, but some of you might not know them. So I thought I'd ask them a few snap questions just to find out some details about them, and I want one-word answers, guys. So, Haggai.
Yes, please.
I do know the answer to this one. What's your favourite food?
My favorite food is potatoes.
One time I took him to the boathouse on the river, yeah, and ordered him steak, egg, and chips. And the steak, as you all know, was amazing, but it had about 6 little chips next to the side of it. And he looked at this thing, and you just see the disappointment in his face. I think it was a total waste of $50. And Peter, yours, what's your favourite food?
Only 4 weeks ago, scallops now. I hate oysters.
Yeah, you're not alone, yeah. And Peter, how many children have you got?
I got 6 children of my own.
Haggai, I'll have to give you some extra time as well. How many children do you have?
I have 4 daughters and many other spiritual sons and daughters in the church and all over the community.
That's right, yeah. So Haggai, when I reflect back on that time in 2007 when I first met you on the way to the airport, could you ever believe back then that now in 2023 we'd still be partnering and serving the children in Natete? What has kept you going these 15, 16 years?
I remember very well that time when we met. I had a goal to see many children in the slums of Natete being transformed and changed to become responsible people. I remember us sharing and talking about the goal I had. That became something that it appeared that you had the same goal. And since then, we started working together. About the question about what has kept me going, I would say it is the passion and that goal that has kept in my heart and in my mind to see these children changing. And I remember the time we met, we started with very few children that were present, and this has kept on going. Right now as we talk, you remember we had a target of a room that could only host 30 kids. But as we talk now, 2023, we have in the same space 209 children stacked into that small space. And then the other 3 classes are jammed in a small hall of a church, whereby the 3 classes are not partitioned, but we only imagine the line in between them. And we say, this is class this is class 4, class 3. All that has come simply because we met. But I remember very well the time before we met, I had seen many people come. They come and go. And simply because the work was kind of challenging. They would easily lose the hope, and they saw like things cannot change here because it's too much need and we are only few. And when we met with you and Dias came into being, I really sensed the commitment. I sensed that determination that I remember you saying, Haggai, I don't know. You remember we cried tears all sitting in that floor with that, and you said, I don't know where to begin from, but I feel God has called me to be here for a longer time. I felt that commitment. And now, here we are together, 15 years together. I remember the struggle we have gone through and the tears we have cried, the prayers we have prayed together. And you know what? Many children have changed. I cannot number how many they have changed, but I want to remember one. I believe you remember Alex. Alex, a boy who was part of the gang of drug addicts in the streets of Natete. He had spent all his life stealing from people. That was his way of surviving. And he had been in prison for many, many times than he could count at an early age. You remember when he accepted to be under our care. We started by rehabilitate. In fact, by then, I didn't even know, because I am glad that I have been able to study. I didn't know even what rehabilitation is, but only to put my heart and say, I will love this young man until he changes. We started rehabilitating the boy, and then we took him back to school. When he finished the school, he starts a business of filmmaking and production. Alex, he decided to take on the young people that could be coming out of the university and tertiary institutions. And he trains them when he realizes that they have a passion to become film actors and producers. Alex is still doing the same to today. Many people have gone through his hands. Alex is traveling the world more than I have ever done. Alex is a father with many wonderful children. The other day, he called me for a birthday. We were celebrating the 12th year with a daughter. Alex is touching many lives. So, in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that our coming together with Dias has really meant a lot. You guys have been so much committed. Maybe you guys who are supporting us, you may not know what is happening on ground. And many of you will never see how many people you are touching. And because of your support and encouragement, Dias has made a change. Alex is only one of the cases that I can easily explain. My own assistant pastor, who is in the church now, is among the street boys. He's married and looking after many, many children in his house. So you are doing a great job. Thank you very much, Dias. God bless you.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks, Haggai. Peter, when I met you in 2002, you were, actually, I met you later, but in 2002, you were studying commerce and doing a business degree, financials management. So that's a turnaround. From that, what prompted you to change from business, a secular career, to start in KCM, Kyampisi Childcare Ministries? What motivated you to do that?
I was confronted by a child that had been kidnapped and disappeared for 2 days. This is a child that came to a soccer academy I started in the slums. And 2 days later, we were searching, and we found his decapitated body in the bush. And this is a child I knew. He was my friend, 10-year-old. And I worked with the mother. She was a single mother, to work with the police to try and find justice for her. I remember very well the scene, the flies we found the scene, the tears of a helpless single mother, the frustration of the police asking the mother to get money to do investigations, the community, and so we work together to make sure that the police does that. We mobilize money to make sure that the police investigates, that the court goes to court, that the scientific evidence is done. And then and we were able to get the witch doctors arrested and taken to prison. And almost soon after that, 3 other children were kidnapped and mutilated, and their body stuffed in a drum, drained of blood and dead. And I looked. They called me because of this case that we worked with. And then soon after that, 2 boys that had survived. One had complete genital mutilation, and another one had castration and a slice in his head. Some of you have met these children here that came for surgery. So when the issue confronted me firsthand, and I had no space within myself to even turn to go back to, because these children were alive, the others were, and the mothers would call me, please help us, we need help, the police is not responding. So I needed to go back to the police and remind them, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. And then the 2 boys that came into my house almost became like my sons, needed help. A miracle happened. I was going to Bundaberg through a dear friend called Rebecca, and then somehow the air tickets were swapped, and I met now my Australian dad and mom on the plane, and there was no return for me at that time. I had no space whatsoever, and I was committed that people feared witch doctors and they didn't want to confront them, and I said I needed to do something, and it ripped me to the core that I could not sleep until I was able to see an end to at least a conclusion of these cases, at least for my little child, 10-year-old who died. And then more and more cases came, and I was convicted that I needed to do something. And again, the desire for accounting and finance was lost. In fact, even now in KCM, I don't look at the finances, and I'm glad I don't. But yeah, that's how it changed. I still have a passion for finance because this crime is economically driven, because people kill children because they think that they will get wealth. And so through one of the first sponsored child in KCM who graduated as a finance manager, we have started a savings group that is helping community to get out of poverty so that they don't do this again.
Incredible. Sorry, I did mean to give a warning that there might be some graphic discussions and topics that we will touch on, but I believe it is relevant because it is the life that particularly Peter lives in, and Haggai to a certain degree as well. Haggai, I want to go back to stay back to 2007. When I met you, you were 40. You hadn't finished school. In fact, I think you'd dropped out of school in what we would call grade 10. You still had 2 years to go to finish high school. Now you have an honours in Bachelor of Arts in Social Science, a master's in International Relations and Diplomatic Studies, and you're busy with your PhD. He's one of the most hard-working men I know. Why? What motivated you to undertake all these studies on top of doing your day job and caring for these 200-odd children and caring for your own children and keeping your marriage together and paying the bills?
Well, I had two reasons why I went back to school. I happened to have been raised from a family, both nuclear family and extended family, of people that did not believe in education. And if you would look around our family, both my nuclear, my brothers, my siblings, even my father, no one person had ever gone beyond the elementary education. Me, I looked at that as a chain that was binding the whole generation. I decided to put a no and raise the standard for my family so that others that come later, the next generation, should raise above that. Secondly, the community where God put me to work. Natete is one of the poorest communities in Uganda. In fact, it is in the city, but it's a slum whereby even the people in the village are more better off than them, because the people in the village, they have food, but these people have no garden. In fact, they are living, if you could remember the whole idea of the hunters and gatherers. People who are living to eat, look for the food for that day. They have no saving, they have no income, but they only live to eat. So they did not value education at all, and they could not take anyone at school. A case in point, I remember when we were still starting at Natete, parents would close the children outside of the houses, the makeshift houses. You know, houses are not proper houses, but they are made out of polythene papers, papyrus reeds, but children would be closed outside. And you know what Natete is? It's an area that floods during rainy season. Imagine children are locked outside and the floods cover the whole ground and the children are alone. So that really pushed me to inspire the people of our community. So when I went back to school, I can give you a testimony that most of the people in my family have gone back to school. Most of the people in my church are going back to school. At last they are studying something. If he's not studying about work, he's studying about the Bible, he's studying, but they have started to see the value of education. Now, another clear testimony. Our school started small, but right now, children everywhere in our community are desperate to go back to school. This year alone, you have seen, we were around 100 and something, but we have been struggling to close the children outside of our walls because the space is limited. We have 220 within a period of all this time. So that's why I went back to school, to inspire other people to see the value of education. That's why I went back.
Definitely worth an applause. I often, tell Haggai that when I was at school, I certainly didn't enjoy going to school most of the time. And people, would rather go to the shopping malls. But honestly, over there, they literally queue up at the start of every year begging to get into these guys' schools. Not just to get a meal, which they get too, but absolutely to get an education, because they know that that is the way out of poverty. That is the sustainable change, is education. And what an example of that. Peter, you've got a school of 800 students, I think now, must be topping 800. Jeff mentions you have a health clinic that serves thousands of people every year, and a rehabilitation home of over 70 children at any one stage. How did all that happen from somebody that was studying finance and went into the bush one day with a few friends and decided to start an NGO, charity? How has that come about?
I personally was convicted that I was being called and transformed from concentrating on finance to doing something in the community. So I had that conviction too. A couple of people that joined us were also similarly convicted that there was something that needed to be done in the fight against child sacrifice, but also in the fight against the injustice that was happening, the poverty, the education. 3, I had a faith in God, that I knew God would move and do. It wasn't about me and what my personal desires to see change were, but that God was going to, it was his work and just following through. The other was, amazingly, we got amazing, passionate people, the KCM team, that have sacrificed and rolled their sleeves so much to work to a common goal, and gave us a unity that supported each other and supported the children and walked around the community. And they work, I'm amazed, every day through the night and day to be able to support these children. And I am with very minimal. And the commitment each one of them has is mind-blowing. And so the team spirit, the unity, the conviction, and the miracles that have happened along the way, walking on through the plains and finding strangers and meeting Rodney, the support Dias has given us. And on a personal level, I would say, there is I had a quote recently that the grave has a lot of indispensable people. And at first, even though we had a team, but you have this on your head that it's your responsibility. But then it's not, because there's a huge team around you to support. And I've been coached, I would say, blessed to have amazing people like Rodney, Phil, Jeff and Ann, and many people here that I've met in the corridors. We've cried together, you've hugged me, you've come there and seen and encouraged us. That has changed us, because then we know we are not alone. There are enormous challenges that we face every day, every single day. But then you receive a call, you receive a text that, how are you going? And that encourages you. When, Rodney, you were in Uganda 4 months ago, I maybe confess this before you. I was personally a mess in a sense of the impact of the trauma and the physical ailments. And I was literally dragging my feet forward, because sometimes you just don't, you just have to live life. And the recognition of trauma back home and the stress and the mental health and anxiety is not there. There's no space for that. There's no expertise for it. There's no, because everybody has their own issues, and you drag yourself, and your children are looking at you, and you have a family, and you have a church, and 800 children, and you have to somehow pretend that you are well. And I remember I did not make the decision. You came to me and said, Peter, I have a ticket, you're coming with me. And I'm like, no, but I'm going back because I've had a lot of fellowships, I've had a lot of prayers, I have a lot of renewal. I was telling people the reason I cut my head is to claim a spiritual renewal as I go back home, that I am changed, I am making decisions. I'm not going to go in isolation again, because I know I have many people, hundreds of people here that I can call to say, look, there is nothing I can be ashamed of, because there is nothing, because we are walking the journey together, and I'm encouraged through that. And so So we've won because you have walked the journey with us. We're seeing impact. The children, the first child that I traveled with here in Australia was 7 years old. His name was George. He's now 18. And he would have otherwise died, but now he's alive and he's coming back sometime end of this year. And so I go back and I see the children and I'm like, okay, one child at a time, and it encourages you. And the prayers I've had, the fellowships I've had, I was on our table there, and they gave me all the chocolates, and I have enjoyed the fellowships that I've had, and you've all encouraged us. And then the first child or children that were sponsored through KCM 15 years ago, some of those we met at 10, 15 years ago they are 25. And some of them are heading education, others are working in the clinic, others are working in a school, in the child protection. And I see the transition and the continuity, and that brings peace to me, and the coaching and the support that we have from Dias. So thank you very much. You've made us go forward and make an impact.
So Peter has touched on, we both of us have touched on witch doctors, and you've heard the term child sacrifice. And I know that when I first heard about it many years ago, and still to this day when I do mention it to people in Australia, that many just, are shocked and stunned and cannot believe that such a thing exists. But unfortunately it does. And the trafficking of children in Africa is still rife. And so, Peter, I know this is a sensitive topic, and I know it brings trauma to you, as it should, because nobody should be dealing with this sort of stuff. But explain to us, what is who are witch doctors, and what is child sacrifice? And I know also you deal with trafficking of children. You don't necessarily rescue them, but you certainly take care of them once they are rescued, and you put them in your rehabilitation centre. And the government, when they do rescue these children from ISIS groups and any other horrible perpetrators, literally dump them on Peter's doorstep, because he's the only organisation in the entire country that has a facility and the people to care for them. The government doesn't even fund it. Peter has to then fund it. He has to protect these children with counter-terrorism police and 10-foot-high walls as they are interviewed, because they are then their parents need to be found. DNA testing needs to be done, and all this has to be funded through KCM and through you. And many of you have actually donated towards these operations. So what is happening there, Peter? Who are witch doctors? Are they evil? I mean, we know they're evil, but why are they doing this? And what is child sacrifice? Because most of us don't understand that. And we shouldn't, because it shouldn't be happening.
I'm sorry. Witch doctors are real. These are people that believe in witchcraft, and they believe that when you kill a child, cut their body parts off, often but if you just think,
it's clean. I hope.
Often body features, whatever the witch doctor believes, ears, nose, the children are brought here have had complete genital mutilations and castrations. And unfortunately, the majority of them die. And I work with police almost every week, just picking up pieces of body parts of children and putting them together, because we need to gather scientific evidence and all that. So I've seen it's not a myth. It's a reality. And even in our rehabilitation center, we have children with no hands, with all sorts of different mutations. And their belief is that when you kill a child, you get wealth, or certain body parts can be used in witchcraft concoctions to get, to get healing of any form. Some children are buried alive under construction sites because they believe that when you do that and you're having a construction project, that project will be finished and you get clients and you get the money. It's an economically driven issue. And politicians, when it's political time, sadly, and they believe that when you kill a child and maybe cut off their hand and you wave to the people, it will be kind of magical for you to go through the political campaigns and win elections. In fact, in 2020, a witch doctor was arrested taking a child's head to Parliament and to the Speaker of Parliament. And he was arrested and interviewed, and he said, I was given this head of a child. The child's name was Faith. And he was arrested. Unfortunately, politics played into that particular investigation, and we haven't yet gotten justice for that child. So, and then there are people that have now, that believed 100% that witchcraft is what they do. Some of them have been initiated from when they were children, and they have participated in the rituals from childhood, and they've gone through that, and so their hearts are hardened to kill in any form or way. And then parents also have been duped that when you kill your own child, so we have children that have been sacrificed by their own fathers or families or uncles. And then we have also the witch doctors, that people that have found that, okay, this witch doctor thing has some economic sense. So then they don't believe in it, but they have now come up with some chemical concoctions to manipulate people. And then they take their money, and once they have taken all their money, then they tell them, okay, what is going to help you? You've sacrificed the chickens, you have sacrificed the cows, now we need you to get a head of a child as a way of ending the transaction of manipulation for a long time. And once you become a killer, then you're not going to report. So it is widespread now, nationally. Many children are falling prey. Last year's police report, we had about 3,000 children that went missing in Uganda, categorized in child stealing, child kidnap, child trafficking. Majority of those fall under as child sacrifice cases, and as a small organization, we try all we can, but the investigations are expensive and we can't reach to all the places, but there are more children. And as an organization, we work on 45 cases to 50 cases a month of children that have been sacrificed through this time. So it's a reality, and we're trying all we can to rescue, to arrest the witch doctors and take them to court, and then to follow up cases so that they follow to logical conclusions, and then push the government to recognize there's a problem and we cannot fight it alone.
Thank you, Peter. I know that's very close to your heart, and obviously very traumatic to live that life and to fight the fight. But I know you've been invited to speak in Switzerland, to the United Nations. You've won the Human Rights Defenders Award from the European Union in the past. And you regularly lobby your government to step up its fight against this. And you've even enabled and fought single-handedly to change the laws in your country. Is there success? Is there hope? Is there a positive sign that things are improving?
Yes, those awards had my name, but I received them on behalf of our team because we together work together. I was privileged to be invited to an expert workshop at the United Nations in Geneva and the European Union. And the United Nations, particularly when I spoke there in the 43rd sitting assembly, they passed resolutions calling on states to make laws and develop mechanisms to fight witchcraft human rights abuses, which they call, which are called harmful cultural practices. And the challenge with the translations from the United Nations is that you have to do so much work to push then the government to recognize that these rules have to, these resolutions have to be recognized nationally and put into the system. So yes, the United Nations acted and resolutions were made, and we are working so closely to push them to government through the events where we are meetings and all that stuff to lobby. The European Union, yes, has recognized this problem and has been writing to the government. Last 2 years ago, for 8 years, we were pushing the government to enact a law that would be used to prosecute witch doctors. The first trial in the 11th Parliament, unfortunately, the Speaker received the report and shelved it. And I went to the members of Parliament and they told me, Peter, we have tried all we can. You go and meet the Speaker. I wrote to the Speaker. She did not reply. I went to her office. I banged the table, sorry. She did not reply. But she's one person who was in the news because a witch doctor was taking her to court for not paying her dues. So I knew that there was somebody, and the recent case, the head of the child was being taken to the Speaker. But the other parliament that came after 8 years, they received the law, and on July 2021, the law was passed to prevent and prohibit human sacrifice in Uganda, and now we are using that for. And I remember going around asking petitions to different places and praying. I just want to report to you that that law has been enacted and we are using it now. After a few things that we are working on, it's going to be used successfully to prosecute witch doctors.
Fantastic.
When I came first to bring a child here, the government was going to arrest me because of treason, because I was speaking against, not against the government, but the government was doing nothing. And people told me not to come back. I said, well, I'll come back. I don't mind going to prison for this little boy I brought here for surgery. When I met the chief of police, he understood me. And now we have a working memorandum of understanding with the Ugandan police and a working memorandum of understanding with the Directorate of Public Prosecution to arrest and prosecute witch doctors in the country. So yes, there is impact and there is change at a national level as well as the international level, because I'm here with you and all of you have heard our story and you have been praying and you have supported us in the process of enacting these laws and supporting the victims that have come here. So,
amazing. Haggai, Natete, you said it's a slum of Kampala, and it certainly is. It's an absolute valley where all the sewerage and the stormwater runoff runs down into it. And I remember getting there after being there a few years and arriving at the church, the water was just flowing through the church and the school. And I said to you, man, we can't support you. Yeah, you need to get out and move into a better area. How can we invest into something in this area that gets flooded? It's crowded. You were getting boxed in by shacks being built all around your school. Yeah, and you resisted. Every year you've resisted. All 15 years you still resist. What is that? Why don't you move to somewhere that's safe, that's open and got green trees and running water?
Thank you, Rodney. The driving force behind the establishment of Bridge Christian Ministries was to help out the orphaned children and the less privileged children of the people of Natete. And I remember very well looking at the background of these people. Their parents are the poor people, like I've already said. They have no job, they have no income. They are not able to shift and go to a better condition. And a vision is a vision. You can never change what is on the heart. What has been the vision on my heart are the people of Natete. And I made a commitment to the Lord, and that as long as people are still living in Natete, my life will always be there, even if it means to die of the floods. You remember I have said this again and again. You have heard the story about what has been happening when it floods. Children did not have anywhere to run to, but they ran to the church. The church became their place of refuge. It became their place of safety. And you know, the parents began to bring children and dump them at church because they know that is the place where they can be and be safe. That's where our school was born. We started teaching because we could not stay with children that were just running from morning to evening. We decided to teach the skills of reading and writing. That was the first time they were receiving free education. And these are people who cannot manage to pay education anywhere else. Now, when you talk about removing the services of Bridge Christian Ministries and New Season Nursery and Primary School, you are taking away the life for these people. Literally, this is what will happen. The next day, these children will sink into the sewages when the rain comes because they have nowhere to run to. You know our storied wooden building. It has become a shelter. Whenever the area floods, we quickly put them up there. You find the whole of that building is full of young people and children and their mothers. You have known how children now are desperate to come and learn. Now, if you take away that, the next day, children will begin running back to the street, begin picking bottles, begin picking wood and papers to sell from the garbage, to sell so that they may get some food. And that is what we are working to fight and change. So I would say our ministry and our services in that very place, in that very slum, is their hope. Take away that, you have taken all the hope out of the village. So for that reason, I committed myself, my brother Rodney. I call you brother every time you know. Even if it means to die, I'm ready to die as long as I can snatch one child out of the shackles of poverty and I release him until he becomes a responsible person. That's why I'm there.
Preach it. So tonight, we called the event tonight a night of hope, and I think you've already answered it. But just one final comment from both of you: what is there hope in this in the slums of Natete? Is there hope for the child that's rescued from sacrifice? Peter?
In this room, I see a lot of hope. That I go back knowing that I'm not alone. Even when I go back on the street as I walk, every smile of a child that smiles at you is a smile of hope, because whether those in school that are safe, whether those that are rescued and are still nursing wounds, their healing of those wounds is a hopeful journey for them. even those that haven't yet been rescued. I know that with the journey we're walking together, there is hope for them. So I am, and then those that have gone through the situations and are coming through, I see hope. And on our campus, particularly when I see 800 children going through school, 1,000 in the rehab, healing and getting better, and then the 300 in high school, there's 40 in university. I see hope not only for Kyampisi, but for Uganda. And I hope that lives beyond us and beyond you, for Uganda, that will change these harmful practices from us. So you've given me hope. I'm going back with a great expectation that we have brothers and sisters who have seen through the curtain, and we are not separated by distance, but you're close to our hearts and giving hope to many children in our communities. Thank you.
Final word from you, Haggai?
Yes, please. There is hope. When you look at what Diocese is doing, getting a child from the poor of the poorest families, getting free education, a right that every child in the world is entitled to, that gives hope. There is hope. I imagine Peter can be a witness. We have many people that go through school, and I myself, I've been a student, I know what it is. They finish their studies. After they have finished, they work for 5 years looking for jobs, and they don't get jobs. Here we are, providing jobs to the people that have been working for years, looking for jobs. Diocese is enabling us to pay teachers, is enabling us to pay doctors, and these people who, there is hope. Somebody is able to put bread in the house. Somebody is able to pay rent. There is hope. We are seeing hope is being created everywhere. There is hope. There is hope to somebody in our communities where we are. Let me talk about New Season Nursery and Primary School. It is in the middle of the slum. People are looking for business. They can't find it. There is hope when one business person sees an opportunity because of what has been created by the school and the market that has been put in place by the school. He starts a retail shop in the area. He sells and he gets profits. Tomorrow he takes care of his family. There is hope. There is hope when one child in the community has been saved from starving. You remember what happened during COVID. 99% of the children we are looking after in our school, we fed them during COVID. There is hope. Diocese, you are doing a lot to bring hope. And this is not the end, but the best is yet to come ahead of us. There is hope. I can encourage you and inspire you, friends, ladies and gentlemen. There is hope through what we are doing. 15 years, a man who could not express himself. You remember, you met me. Found a man who cannot even mention his name. A man who did not have any education. Here I am. I am here. Tomorrow I'm meeting another big friend of mine who just met me simply because I sat and did one small paper. I scored highly. Now they want me to establish a Bible college in my area simply because I know what to do now and I can relate with people who understand. There is hope. Somebody being brought from nothing and becoming something. Diocese, you are doing it. I want to tell you there is hope. 15 years, you have built us into what we are. There are many Haggais whom you have not yet met. Let us keep doing it. Let us save the children. and let us do it. And God is going to bless each one of us. I'm here to say thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here because I have an opportunity to look at the people who have made me what I am now. Thank you, and thank you. God bless you.
I don't think I need to add to that. That's why I go there so many times, and it has been truly an honour, obviously, to serve with these guys, because they inspire me, and it's why I do it, and it's because of your support through us, through Dias, that these amazing gentlemen do what they do. So thank you so much again for coming tonight. We will hang around. I know time is marching on, and dessert is probably just around the corner. But Peter and Haggai will stay for as long as necessary, and you can have a private chat or a question to them as well. So thank you very much.